Greetings everyone, welcome to Advanced. And this game was played in the Sinquefield Cup yesterday, and this game is an absolutely spectacular game. I mean, full of chances, full of preparation, full of insane, mind-boggling ideas. So without further ado, let's start with this game. With the black pieces, we have Gukesh, the current reigning world champion, and the thing is that I flipped the board because I wanted to show you from this perspective because that makes it much better. And with the white pieces, we have Gukesh's second, we have Jan-Krzysztof Duda. So there's a lot of things going on because he knows the way Gukesh plays, so he's gonna try and outplay him, maybe with a preparation, maybe with something else. But let's see what happens. D4 by Duda, and now we have D5, C4, and just E6, knight to F3, knight to F6, knight to C3, and knight BD7. Just going for Queen's Gambit decline, three knights variation, or also called Barman variation. We have E3, A6, and now just going for B3. And Duda is saying I'm just gonna fianchetto the bishop if I'm not I've not developed it this way, so I'm just fianchettoing it. B6, C captures, E captures, bishop to B2. As planned, bishop to B7, but now very strange idea by Duda. Duda goes for G3 in this position. I mean, we have seen other players play this like double fianchetto variation. That's absolutely fine. There is no issue with this. But the thing is that not in this way and not in this variation specifically, because this just doesn't make any sense, because you have kept the king in the center for a bit too long now, and actually Gukesh can start attacking because bishop to d6, bishop to g2, queen to e7. Now queen to e7 is a very beautiful move by Gukesh, saying that your king is still in the center, I'm threatening some things here, some tactics, and also I'm threatening to castle queenside and start an immediate attack with h5, and that's going to be very dangerous. So when someone tries to attack you, you just preempt an attack to them, and here Duda goes for a4, saying that if you're going to castle queenside, be my guest, I'm just going to push those pawns. But the thing is, even if you push those pawns, you don't have anything here, because let's say you push that, I'm just going to push this, you're going to have to sacrifice a piece. Even then you don't have anything. So Duda's attack is not really something that can happen, but Gukesh's attack on the other hand can really something be that's going to be dangerous, because both rooks are going to be on this file, you're going to push those pawns all the way, you already have a beautiful bishop, knight can jump in, queen is centralized, everything is looking really good in this position. H5 was played by Gukesh almost immediately, because they're just going for that attack, it's better to go all out. Queen to c1, and this game has actually been played. This game was played between Nasiso and Hikaru Nakamura. Both the games, Hikaru Nakamura was with the black pieces. In one game here, queen to c1 was played, and Hikaru Nakamura was able to beat Vestiso in this position two times, and the black pieces guy always won in this position. So this is very amazing stuff, because here knight to e4 was played by Hikaru, and Gukesh goes for the same thing. So is it prep? Well, you can never know, because knight to e4 is a good move. The idea being that here this was threatened. The idea is always, whenever you see the double fianchetto or something like this where the bishop is here, you normally try, even in French defense, you normally try to get the bishop to a3 and trade off this very strong bishop that's going to be used for the attacking purposes later. So now if you go for it, after a trade, knight will be hanging, so you cannot really go for it. So Duda goes for knight caps on e4. Seems like a reasonable move, but it's not a reasonable move, because after d captures, you have to understand, now have a central pawn. I'm going to be pushing f5, I'm going to be pushing h4, and I'm going to be castling queenside, and my bishops are absolutely amazing. So there is not much you can do about this, and that's absolutely right, because here after knight to d2, we have h4, just pushing it all the way, and that's the best move recommended by the engine as well. So Duda is in a lot of trouble. Bishop to a3 was played, now trying to trade off, and engine suggests some crazy lines in this position. You could go for maybe like c5, not trying to trade pieces, not directly in this position, but in some lines you could go for like a c5. You just try not to trade the bishops, because your bishop is very strong. You don't want to trade for a passive bishop like that. And also the best move in this position is actually f5. F5 is a crazy idea, because bishop captures, you play queen captures, and after castles you just castle queenside, and there is lot of troubles that's brewing, because hey, this bishop is on this diagonal, rook is already there, you just push the pawns all the way, and this game could actually turn up to be a really violent game, because after bishop to a3, queen to e6 was played, but queen to e6 is not that good a move. f5 was really better, but still you still carry some advantage, and if you are able to push it through, Duda makes a few more inaccuracies, it's going to be really your game. Bishop captures on d6 was played, c captures, but now just comes queen to a3. Queen to a3 with the idea of infiltrating, getting the rook into the game. You cannot castle queenside now. Obviously you have to keep the king in the center, so if you want to attack, there's no queenside castling happening anytime soon. And obviously you don't want to castle a kingside, because you've already pushed the pawn to h4, and that would be a little bit weak. Knight to f6. Now knight to f6 is not a good move. For some reason Indians don't like knight to f6, because knight to f6 seems like a logical move, because you want to play queen to f5, you want to get the knight to g4, you want to push that pawn to h3. There are some weaknesses in your position. Bishop is already on this diagonal, so there are some things that is just doesn't seem well here. But I think knight to f6 with the idea that maybe you had a better move in this position and you just missed out on it. It doesn't do that much of an advantage, but it's still, it loses quite much, because here knight to c4 was played. And now this is the idea, because you're losing 2 pawns here, and now you were thinking about attack on the queen side, and now you have to considerably at the same time think about defending on the queen side. So attacking on the king side, if you were completely focused on it, that would be much better. But now you have to think about defending, and rook to d8 was played, defending this pawn. But now knight captures on b6, so you have given up a pawn. And what are you going to do about this? So you can either pause here and try to find out the best move in this position, and that's actually a very nice trick that you can find in this position. So if you want to have at it. I'm just going to show it, because the move that you want to play in this position is a5, and that's a very dubious move. The idea is that knight doesn't have any retreat squares. So how are you going to defend the knight? Because next move I'm going to play is, I'm going to play this d5, and I'm going to be attacking your knight. You cannot go back. There are no more squares for the knight to jump to, and that knight is going to be trapped. Yeah, crazy as it is, knights can be trapped too. And that's how it would have happened. But you could avoid this, and you could go b4. But after b4 you get a captures, queen captures, and bishop to a6. And this bishop is a very powerful piece here on this diagonal, because there is nothing you can do. Again, same idea, knight jumps in, queen jumps in, h3 is coming, and same ideas. And your king is very weak as white. You cannot play king here, you cannot castle now. Yeah, obviously you don't want to castle here. I mean, you're just completely lost if you do that. So position is just very bad. But here after a5 we have g captures. And g captures is, I don't know why he played it. I mean, Duda, I have no idea, because this is weakens your king further. Rook captures was played, rook to c1 now. But now comes bishop to a6, and bishop to a6 with the same ideas that I showed before, and there is nothing been changed, not much. b4 now. And any ideas of b4, you have to understand that you have to capture. There is no other way, because if you push, this bishop goes absolutely blank, and you don't want that to happen. This is your strongest suit. This bishop is your strongest suit. You don't want to lose your strongest suit. So a captures would have been the idea, because after queen captures you play bishop to d3. And this bishop to d3 is such an amazing centralizing move. Defends the pawn. First of all, the pawn defending is not the idea, but the idea is that you take away a lot of squares from the queen and the rook. And also there are some mating patterns. Let's say you play rook to c6, trying to just go for it, go for that pawn, or maybe something else. Here just queen to g4. So any passive move, any inaccuracies will lead to your ultimate demise, because here after bishop to f1, now you have to play bishop to f1, because your bishop is attacked, also mate is being threatened. So bishop to f1, but you play queen to f3, now attacking the rook. But now you get this rook to g1, just trying to move away. But now comes rook captures on h2, and there are just too many threats in this position. You're going to have to move the queen back, and still there are so many threats. It's just very difficult to defend this position. Knight is jumping in next, and there is no counter attacking ideas in this position. But here, unfortunately, Gukesh did not find this move. Gukesh goes for queen to g4 directly, going for an attack all out and also threatening mate. But now comes bishop to f1, and the problem is queen to f3 does not work now, because of this very amazing idea b5. And b5 is an amazing move. Duda is saying, you want to capture my rook? Please go ahead, be my guest, because there is no follow-up. And he's absolutely right, there is no follow-up. You capture here, that bishop is a spectacular defender. There is no way you can annoy that bishop, or you can target that bishop with your own bishop. So there is no attack happening. And even if you capture here, it's at least going to take you 2-3 moves. Again, queen can go back and defend that f2 pawn. So there is nothing you can do in this position. That's the annoying part about it. Here knight to g4 was played, saying that I'll capture that rook next move, but first I'm gonna threaten some mating ideas. Queen to a2, defending all of that. And now comes queen caps on h1, finally just grabbing that rook. If you're not grabbing that rook, there is no point. I mean, you're just hanging that rook for 2-3 moves, and that was the idea. But there is actually a winning move for Duda in this position. And does he go for it? He goes for rook to c7 in this position, and that's exactly what he goes for. And the position is very difficult, because you have to understand, first of all, mate is being threatened, so you have to defend against that. Not only that, your piece is hanging, and once that piece is hung, you have to understand that this pawn is going to be very strong pass pawn, and the position is not looking that good. Here queen to f3 was played again, now defending against mate. And if you move the queen anywhere, also threatening some checkmating ideas. But just just b captures. And this b captures, unfortunately for Duda in this position, is not a good move, simply because of the fact that you have a chance to be able to equalize here with rook caps on h2. And now there's too much pressure. Now there is absolutely too much pressure. You're not in time to push that pass pawn, because here queen to e2 was played, but after rook captures, queen captures, e captures, now you get this a7. But now comes this rook to b2. There is no way you can push now. And knight to c8 was played, but knight caps on e3, knight caps on d6 for the check, king moves, and now just going for this rook caps on f7. So absolutely everything gets traded off. There is no attack that's happening against the white king. You do have a pass pawn, but it's not enough. You can never promote. And well, most likely it's going to be ending in a draw. But king to g8, rook caps on f3, knight caps on f1, king captures, rook to a8, rook to f7. And this is very annoying. It's always annoying, because first Gukesh had the advantage, he wasn't able to push through. Then Duda had the advantage, he wasn't able to push through. And now unfortunately, when the attacks are settled and everything gets settled down, you just have an endgame which is basically a draw. It always happens. And this is the annoying part about attacking, because you just spend so much of your brain power fighting it out, just getting and going out there, just getting your pieces to all the right squares, finding the best moves. And now everything when the dust settles, there is no way you can do anything. So rook to b4, rook to c7 was played, king to h7, rook, knight to c8. Now again, trying to do some things, maybe push that pass pawn, maybe just grab the square and just get the rook out of there, but it's never going to work out. Here rook caps on d4 was played, knight to b6, but now, but just rook to f8, king to e2, rook to d8 check, king to f3, rook to d3. And both players here agree to a perpetual. And yes, the game ended in a draw, unfortunately, but this game was very, very an amazing learning experience. And also the ideas where when you attack, it's always good to go all out instead of just hanging. I think Gukesh made a mistake of capturing that rook, and Duda was threatening very nice things with this queen captures and was almost winning, but he became greedy and he captured the piece first. And I think that's where both of these players made inaccuracies and was not able to get their win. But indeed, it was a joy to analyze this game. Really, really amazing ideas. And that's what I do on this channel. I mean, I love love analyzing these games, because they're absolutely spectacular and definitely they teach you a lot. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with games like these, so stay tuned to the channel, stay updated with the channel. And I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching.